Guys, welcome back to the Hot One LE channel. Today I am going to be talking about how you can basically afford your own Camaro ZL1 or whatever like special car that it is out there that you want to actually buy. Let's do this. Alright, so basically at the age of 18, I wasn't dealt like the greatest hands, so I had nothing. I drove basically a Ford Ranger. I mean, I said I didn't have nothing because I didn't really have a place to live, so I was pretty much kind of homeless, just sleeping in friends' houses. I was kicked out of the house at 18. I did everything from the ground up, and that's how it was. And if you got like parents with money and you could just go out and buy cars, well, like, cool, man, go do that. And I'm stoked for you. Like, good for you, dude. I wish I was in your shoes. I picked up some jobs here and there. I was a security guard for a little while. I worked in like a warehouse kind of thing. It wasn't paying. And I've always been interested in like computers. I knew how to fix computers just kind of like naturally, so to speak. And I decided you can make good money with computers, especially back then. And when I say computers, I mean like IT. So I kind of just took something that I kind of took naturally and decided to kind of like dive a little bit further into it. And I pursued the certification route. So you can get IT certifications. You don't have to go to school for these. You can just like read a book and go and pay for the certification and go somewhere and take a test. And then you have that. And then you can put that on your resume. And then hopefully go make money with that. And that's kind of the shortened explanation of IT certifications. So if you want to start off at the very bottom like I did, not knowing anything, you typically go into like help desk, password resets, that kind of thing, minor troubleshooting, basic troubleshooting, people's this or that not working, and you basically take a ticket, and if you can't figure it out, you forward it to the next guy. That's what really help desk is in the first tier. And to get into that, you get an A+ certification from a company called CompTIA. CompTIA. So I did that, and I passed it on my first try. It was probably like a 600-page book, and I studied it just completely on my own. I mean, I passed it on the first try, which was amazing because it was kind of tough, but I just studied, man. I just studied the book. I wrote stuff down, I memorized stuff, and that's all it really was. I pursued to be like a cable guy for a little bit just to get my feet wet in some level of IT, and this guy that just cut me off is kind of a jerk, so just throwing that out there. And then I found basically a job doing like electronics and cars, building police cars, and the A+ kind of helped with that. But they also did like software imaging on computers and troubleshooting on computers at a basic level. And I decided to just become really good at that. I wanted to become the guy for that, because I knew if I did, then I could put more on my resume and more valuable stuff to push me into the route that I want to be in. And I did exactly that. I pursued that so I could get into IT a little bit further, and I used that as leverage for my next jobs and next certifications. So I did this for about 7 years, and I kind of lost track of pursuing certifications and kind of growing my education. And that's where it kind of got rough, because I was stuck in this job. I couldn't really call the shots. I became senior, and I essentially didn't really have a very high pay level skill. A skill where you could start demanding things, and what I mean is by like higher pay, more PTO, better work environments. I hated working in the heat and the cold all the time, and I was in my 20s, but it was getting old. And you're crawling around on vehicles all the time, you're pulling them apart, you're doing a lot of custom work. Well, it gets kind of old, and yeah, I did get tired of it. So I really just got kind of burned out. It was a really toxic work environment. They cut our pay a lot, and I was put in situations where times were really hard. Now, I had bought during this job because I was growing and getting kind of higher pay. I was getting like, I was driving a Chevy Camaro SS supercharged for a bit, and I absolutely loved it. Drove that car for 5 years, and I was ready for like real wheel drive, and I bought a 2011 V6 Mustang, and I wanted a V8, so I traded in and sold it really soon after I had that, probably about after a year on the dot. You know, that car kicked ass. It was a 2010 GT with a track pack, and I absolutely loved it. What happened is, at the time I was doing a help desk job and this job, so I was doing two jobs. I was paying off, I was completely fine. Well, the contract ended at the help desk job, so that sucked. And then my primary job, which I had been at 7 years, ended up laying me off. There was a lot of financial cuts. This was during like the housing crisis and everything. They had cut our pay 25% and then started doing layoffs, and it ended up being a really good thing because it was such a toxic work environment. I'm starting to hit my 30s here. It wasn't working for me, and I decided I need to go back into the IT field, and I did that. And I started pursuing my next IT certification, which was a Network Plus certification. So this is like a specialization in networking, or computer networking. So it's kind of how computers get out to the internet and talk to routing and switching and stuff like that. Stuff people don't really know about, but it's a specialization in IT instead of just being a help desk guy at this point and hitting a pay cap again. I needed to go bigger and better and have a path. So I kind of built this path, and I was like, well, I don't really know what I want to do. This seems interesting. I wanted to go into IT security. I had dabbled with like hacking and stuff like that, on my own networks, not on other people's networks. Not all hackers are bad, but we could get into that in another conversation. But that's what I was interested in, and I got this Network Plus certification, and I was in there all rocked out, my long hair. I probably looked ridiculous to the professionals in there. And I'm in this class. I took a class because it was hard to motivate myself to read a book, and I got a great teacher. You know, I was trying to just make myself proud is really what I was trying to do. Give myself a career path, get back into cars. I was driving a Mazda 3. I had to downsize. You know, I had a lot of tickets on my record from the Mustang and just being young and dumb. I almost lost my license. So I had to chill out, dude. There was this like time I went through a Del Taco drive-thru. I know this is stupid, but I went through this Del Taco drive-thru, and the person took my order and gave me the food, and we just drove off, and I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't even pay. And my buddy's like, dude, just drive. Who cares? I'm like, yeah, but somebody, you know, what if they done this before? What if they lose their job over this, you know? Ooh, on-ramp. Woo. And like that, you're going 80, boys. That's how you get on an on-ramp. And I said, you know, that's not right. You know, my buddy was like, no, dude, just go. That's their fault, you know? And I'm like, no. So I parked the car, and I kind of just thought to myself, and like, I was like, you know what, man, maybe I need to do some, like, I don't know, good karma work, you know? I mean, I'm going to do this anyways, but maybe this will help inch me into, you know, maybe I'll get a job here, because I'm looking and I'm not finding anything, and I need this Network Plus certification to work. And I kind of just hoped that, you know, maybe if you do something good, it'll come back in return. And I didn't do it so it'd come back to me. I did it so that person wouldn't lose their job. The next day, I got a call, and I had interviewed for a place, and I got a job as like a network technician, and that got me into the networking field with the certification that I just got. It just like, I just knew it was the right thing for me. I just knew that this is gonna work out, and I just had all the right feelings. I felt like I was putting my right foot forward and the positivity forward for good things to come happening after this. So I got that job, and that job actually ended up building my career so much. I moved up from tier 1 to tier 2 to tier 3. I troubleshooted routing and switching. You know, it was a lot of phone-based stuff, which I really didn't want to do, but I put my foot forward and just made the best of it to grind to get what I needed to get to. You know, you can look at things as like short-term goals, or you look at things as a long-term goal and just break up the problems in little pieces. And when you get that mentality, you're not going to be there forever, right? Well, I did that for 5 years, and I became a manager as well. And it really worked out well for me. got a lot of experience, but I didn't stop my education in that time. In that time, I got a Cisco Certified Network Associate, CCNA, and this starts carrying a lot more weight when you get Cisco certs in the networking field. I got my CCNA, and man, I felt like gold. It was one of the toughest things I did, and I studied my ass off. I did go to school for this. There's some classes you could take in community colleges depending on where you live, and there's different variations of it, but yes, I got a CCNP and then a CCNA, and these are both Cisco, and I was like, all right, I'm not done. I got the CCNA, I got work experience, but I need more. And the next certification in the Cisco realm that carries a lot of weight for you is the CCNP. So it's Cisco Certified Network Professional, and that's a professional level certification. This is where you start making money. And this is where you want to go when it comes to like your certifications. You want to pursue professional level certifications. It's really tough, very, very, very tough. I took 2 of the 4 classes for the CCNP, but I backed out of the other 2 classes and just decided to self-study. Felt like I had it at that time, and during this time, my dad got cancer. And I was kind of dealing with that at the same time, but I had so much drive, and I knew if I failed because of this or let it hold me back, like I knew it wasn't what he was gonna want, you know what I mean? And if I were to do that, that would be like probably the biggest failure in my life. And I wanted to make my dad feel proud, but I wanted to make myself proud, right? I wanted to make myself proud, man, and show that I can weather storms, and I didn't skip a beat. Like I sometimes think the way I got so strong with my ability to do this is because of that. So I took the negative, I took the L, and I made it a positive. And I'm still proud to this day that I did that. And when things come up, I just think to myself, well, anybody can do it. You just got to really just do it. I remember going and taking a test. The CCNP is 4 or 3 tests, and I went and had to take my second one, and my dad had died. God, my dad had died a month before that, or maybe a couple weeks before that. And I actually had to put off the test, and Cisco was really cool with rescheduling and everything. And I had to go take that test, and I remember sitting in my car. I think I was driving a WRX at the time, a 2016 WRX. And I was just like, I'm sitting there in the car, and I'm going through the emotions of my dad and his passing, and I got to go take a test that costs $300. And I gotta like be in the game and do my best. And man, I could tell you, like, it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy, man. And it wasn't just easy emotionally, it was hard like mentally, because I gotta perform at my best top tier level, and all this, CCNP took me a little over a year to study for, and I gotta go past this, man. And I did. And I passed it, and it was awesome. And don't get me wrong, I failed some of these tests in this process. I didn't fail that one, but I did fail my first CCNP test. But you get back up and you do it again. You just, whatever, who cares? Everybody fails sometimes. The point is that you keep moving. But I got the CCNP certification after the 3 tests. I was really excited about that, and I moved on to my first network engineer job after that. So I quit the job I was at, and I moved on to be a network engineer, and that's where you start, making more money, is when you're an engineer. And I made more money, and I was double what I was just maybe 4 or 5 years ago, maybe a little bit less than that, 3 years ago. I found the plan, I found the route, and while I did this job, I knew that there was going to have to be something next. And I pursued my degree. So I got a bachelor's degree in network operations and security from Western Governors University. So I did this all online. It's fully accredited. And I eventually quit this job and moved on to a senior network engineer position. And I've kind of jumped different positions here and there and kept raising my pay. And you guys seen the channel. I mean, I went from a 5.0 Mustang GT to a 1SS 1LE. That was my first network engineer job, to the 2SS 1LE. And now I'm driving a Camaro ZL1, and I love it. And this thing pulls, dude. And that's basically my path. And even as it is right now, I'm studying for a CISP, so a CISSP certification, which brings me into the cybersecurity world, which is really where I want to go. Kind of get out of the network engineering role. I've been doing this now from the very beginning for about 8 years, and it's worked out for me. It's my career. I could go further with it, but I want to change kind of my chapter a little bit and do something a little bit different, and kind of just expand myself a little bit more, make more money too, buy faster cars, dude, whatever. So that's basically how I did it. But I think the takeaway from all of this is don't be afraid to like get in and do something new, and don't be afraid to fail. A lot of people don't do these certifications because they're afraid of failing. I think ultimately being afraid to fail and not doing something is failing. It's not even starting is failing. You gotta understand, just put your best foot forward and just try. That's all you gotta do, because if you can do that, well, you've already beat a lot of people to the punch just doing that. But that's kind of my takeaway on this. Don't be afraid to get out there and try new things. Don't be afraid to make risks. Don't be afraid to lose a little bit of money in your path if it means there's a bigger objective. Anytime you got like a big problem, whether that be how to make more money and get somewhere in the future, or troubleshooting something in the IT world, or whatever it may be, break it up into smaller problems and attack those smaller problems. Don't let emotion control you. Don't let what's happening in the world control you. Stay focused, stay, put. If you got to put off partying, because there's way more fun down the road. And what you're doing right now isn't always what you want to be doing forever. You got to build up a little bit of comfortability and happiness for yourself, man. So that's my kind of takeaway from that. If you guys got questions about the IT field, I'm totally happy to answer them in the comments. You guys got any questions whatsoever, or guidance, whatever, I'm always here to talk. I'm always happy. Just throw down in the YouTube comments here anything you got. And if you've done it in the IT world too, maybe you guys could give me tips. Always be willing to learn, right? You're not always the answer. Always be willing to learn and listen. And I think that'll take you very far. But thank you guys. I'm at my destination and I need to figure out what I'm going to be eating next, and I'm about to go see my dog, so I'm pretty stoked right now. Thanks guys for watching. I love you guys. Thank you.